The dull hum of the ship's control systems filled the cockpit as Commander Jack Randall leaned back in his seat, staring out into the void. Another quiet patrol. The Earth glowed serenely below, its swirling clouds and oceans a calming reminder of home. Out here, among the stars, Jack often felt alone but strangely at peace. Routine check, Quadrant 3 complete, he muttered into his comms. No anomalies detected. All quiet. His co-pilot's voice crackled back, tinged with static. You sound bored, Randall. Need me to send you a crossword puzzle or something? Jack smirked. I'd rather take a meteor storm over another crossword. At least that'd be exciting. As if the universe itself had heard his request, a sharp beat pierced the silence. His ship's scanners lit up with an alert. An object had appeared out of nowhere, massive and moving toward Earth's orbit at an alarming speed. Unregistered vessel detected, the ship's AI announced in its monotone voice. Size, approximately 2,000 meters in length. Classification, unknown. Jack's smirk vanished. He straightened in his seat, toggling the controls to magnify the image on his monitor. What he saw sent a chill down his spine. The vessel was unlike anything he'd ever encountered. Its surface was sleek and reflective, catching the distant sunlight in eerie, prismatic patterns. It moved with an elegance that seemed almost deliberate, as though it were alive. This is Commander Jack Randall of the United Galactic Peace Force, he said, his voice steady but firm. Unidentified vessel, state your purpose and identify yourselves. You are approaching Earth's orbital zone. The seconds stretched into silence. Jack's fingers hovered over the defensive systems. Then, the comms crackled, and a voice spoke. This is Captain Zara of the Halian Imperium, the voice said, rich and resonant, with an air of authority. We come in peace. We request permission to dock with your station for diplomatic engagement. Jack blinked. Diplomatic engagement? He wasn't sure what he had expected, but the calm, measured tone of the alien captain wasn't it. Yes, Zara replied. We seek dialogue with your species. Or would you prefer we bypass pleasantries and proceed to the surface unannounced? Jack hesitated. Protocol dictated caution, but this was no ordinary situation. A vessel this advanced and massive could bypass Earth's defenses with ease if it wanted to. Better to keep them talking. Permission granted, Jack said. Follow the beacon to docking Bay 4. But understand, you'll be under constant surveillance. Zara's voice carried a hint of amusement. We would expect nothing less. The docking procedure was flawless. Jack stood at the entrance to the bay, flanked by a team of security officers in exosuits, their weapons primed. The Halian vessel gleamed as it settled into place, its massive size dwarfing the human station. A hiss of escaping air marked the opening of the alien airlock. Jack braced himself as the first figure emerged. She was nothing like he had imagined. Towering at least 8 feet tall, Captain Zara strode confidently into the docking bay, her cyan skin shimmering faintly under the station's lights. Her violet eyes scanned the room with a mixture of curiosity and superiority. Her long, dark hair framed a face both regal and intimidating, and her form-fitting uniform hinted at a physique built for power. Jack swallowed hard, feeling both awed and alarmed. He stepped forward, extending a hand in greeting. Commander Jack Randall. Welcome aboard. Zara's eyes flicked to his hand, then back to his face. She didn't take it. Instead, her lips curled into a small, amused smile. This is your customary greeting? It's a handshake, Jack said, lowering his hand awkwardly. A sign of goodwill. How quaint, Zara said, her tone laced with a teasing edge. She looked him up and down, her gaze assessing. Tell me, Commander, are all your males this small? Jack's jaw tightened. He could hear the barely stifled snickers of his crew behind him. Size isn't everything, he said evenly. Her laughter was a low, melodic rumble that sent a shiver down his spine. I suppose that's what your kind tells yourselves. Let's focus on the diplomatic part of this engagement, Jack said, his professionalism barely masking his irritation. Why are you here? Zara's smirk faded, replaced by a serious expression. All in good time, little human. But first, I'd like to understand the species we're dealing with. She gestured at him. And you seem like a good place to start. Jack wasn't sure whether to feel flattered or insulted. Well, he said, forcing a grin, you've come to the right guy. Her violet eyes gleamed, and the faintest smile returned. We'll see about that. As she followed him deeper into the station, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that he had just stepped into a game he didn't fully understand, a game where the rules, and the stakes, were far beyond anything Earth had ever encountered. The Halian delegation was unlike anything Jack had experienced in his years as a commander. Zara wasn't alone. She was joined by 3 other Halians, each as tall and commanding as their captain, their glowing skin and angular features making them seem almost ethereal. They carried themselves with an air of superiority, their every movement measured and precise. Jack led them into the station's main briefing room. The humans stationed there, all representatives of Earth's interstellar alliance, stood uneasily as the towering aliens entered. For a moment, the room was silent, tension thick enough to cut with a blade. Zara surveyed the gathering. Is this your leadership? She asked, her voice neutral but tinged with curiosity. These are representatives of Earth's governing bodies, Jack replied. They're here to hear what you have to say. He gestured toward the table. Please, take a seat. Zara raised an eyebrow, clearly amused at the chairs designed for humans. With a slight wave of her hand, she and her team remained standing. We prefer to stand, she said. This discussion will not take long. One of the human representatives, Ambassador Delgado, cleared his throat. Captain Zara, we welcome you to Earth's orbital station. You mentioned diplomatic engagement. Can you elaborate on what the Halian Imperium seeks? Zara clasped her hands behind her back, her posture as commanding as ever. The Halian Imperium is at a crossroads. Our species, though advanced, faces a grave challenge: survival. Her words sent a ripple of surprise through the room. Jack frowned. What kind of survival issue are we talking about? Our biology is unique, Zara explained. We rely on high-energy mating bonds to sustain our species. This process does more than produce offspring. It fuels the very essence of our physiology, our neural networks, our cellular regeneration. Without it, we weaken and eventually perish. Ambassador Delgado nodded cautiously. And how does this concern Earth? Zara's violet eyes locked onto Jack's. Our genetic diversity has diminished over millennia of isolation. The energy required for our bonding rituals has exceeded what 2 Halians alone can generate. To survive, we must find a compatible species to join us in this process. The room fell silent. Jack's heart sank as the implications hit him. You want humans to bond with your species? Correct, Zara said simply. It is not a matter of choice but necessity. Another representative, Senator Malcolm, leaned forward. How can we be certain this isn't a ruse to exploit us? What proof do we have that your species even needs this arrangement? Zara's gaze shifted to Malcolm, her expression cold. If exploitation were our goal, Senator, we would not waste time in negotiation. Your defenses are primitive, we could take what we need. Her tone softened slightly. But that is not the Halian way. We seek partnership, not conquest. And what does this bonding entail? Delgado asked, his voice carefully measured. Zara hesitated, glancing at her team. Then, with a sigh, she stepped closer to the table. It is difficult to explain in terms your species might grasp. The bonding process is both physical and energetic. It involves synchronization of neural patterns, bioelectric fields, and, yes, physical compatibility. Jack crossed his arms, his skepticism clear. Sounds intense. How do you know humans can even handle it? Zara smirked. We don't. That's why we propose a trial. The word hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. Jack narrowed his eyes. What kind of trial? One of your kind will undergo the bonding process with one of ours, Zara explained. Under controlled conditions, monitored by both Halian and human scientists. This will determine whether your species can endure the demands of Halian bonding. Jack opened his mouth to respond, but Ambassador Delgado spoke first. This is highly unorthodox. We need time to consider the risks and discuss terms. You do not have time, Zara said sharply. Our survival depends on swift action. The longer we wait, the closer we come to extinction. Jack saw the faintest flicker of vulnerability in her otherwise stoic expression. This wasn't just a negotiation tactic, it was desperation, albeit veiled beneath layers of Halian pride. And what happens if humans aren't compatible? Senator Malcolm asked. Zara's gaze hardened. Then we will seek another solution. But rest assured, this is the least invasive option available. Jack frowned, his mind racing. The situation was beyond anything he'd trained for, but one thing was clear, this wasn't just about biology, it was about survival, diplomacy, and potentially the future of two species. And who do you propose for this trial? Delgado asked cautiously. Zara turned to Jack, her violet eyes piercing. Him. Jack blinked, caught off guard. Me? You were the first human I encountered, Zara said. You seem resilient. And I prefer a partner who is not easily intimidated. Jack flushed, half from indignation, half from the strange thrill of being singled out. I didn't sign up to be a science experiment. No, Zara said, her voice low and almost teasing. You signed up to protect your species. And right now, Commander, that is exactly what this trial represents. Jack felt the weight of her words, the eyes of his fellow humans on him. He could protest, refuse, let someone else take the risk. But deep down, he knew that wasn't who he was. If this trial could open the door to peace and possibly save an entire species, he couldn't walk away. After a long moment, he sighed. Fine. I'll do it. Zara's lips curved into a faint smile. Good. Then let us prepare. Your trial begins tomorrow. As the Halians exited the room, Jack felt a mix of apprehension and determination. He had no idea what he was walking into, but one thing was certain, the stakes had never been higher. Jack stood in the preparation chamber, staring at his reflection in the polished metallic surface of the wall. His exosuit fit snugly, designed to protect him during high-energy conditions. Still, it felt like paper armor compared to what he was about to face. Around him, Halian scientists adjusted intricate devices, their glowing fingers manipulating holographic controls with effortless precision. The tension in the air was palpable. You seem nervous, little human, came a familiar voice. Jack turned to see Captain Zara enter the chamber, her towering form emanating an air of calm confidence. She was dressed in a sleek, form-fitting Halian jumpsuit that shimmered like liquid light, emphasizing her powerful physique. I prefer the term cautiously prepared, Jack quipped, masking his nerves with humor. Zara smirked. Caution won't help you here. Only resilience will. She stepped closer, her violet eyes locking onto his. Do not disappoint me, Commander. Jack straightened, meeting her gaze. I'll do my best. The arena for the trial was unlike anything Jack had ever seen. The chamber was vast, its walls lined with pulsing energy conduits that bathed the space in shifting hues of blue and gold. At the center of the room floated a glowing plasma field, its swirling patterns mesmerizing and slightly ominous. Halian scientists explained the process as they calibrated the chamber. The bonding trial measures your ability to synchronize your bioelectric field with Captain Zara's, one of them said, their tone clinical. The plasma acts as a mediator, amplifying and channeling the energy between you. The process is physically and mentally taxing. Great, Jack muttered. Sounds like a spa day. Zara stood at the opposite end of the chamber, her expression unreadable. Are you ready, Commander? Jack hesitated, then stepped forward into the plasma field. As ready as I'll ever be. The trial began with a low hum, the energy in the chamber rising like a storm brewing in the distance. Jack felt a tingling sensation wash over his body as the plasma field pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Across from him, Zara moved with deliberate grace, her hands raised as if conducting an unseen orchestra. Focus on me, Zara instructed. Her voice was calm but firm. Match my movements, my rhythm. Let your energy flow with mine. Jack tried to mimic her, but it was like trying to dance to a song he couldn't hear. The plasma responded to her effortlessly, swirling and glowing brighter with every motion. For him, it was a struggle to even keep his balance. You're lagging, Zara said, a note of impatience creeping into her tone. Stop thinking and feel the energy. I'm trying. Jack snapped, beads of sweat forming on his brow. The plasma pulsed harder, the energy in the chamber intensifying. Jack's muscles ached, his breathing grew labored. He could feel his bioelectric field trying to sync with hers, but it was like forcing mismatched puzzle pieces together. Push through it, Zara urged. Her tone softened slightly, almost encouraging. Your body is capable of more than you think. Trust it. Jack gritted his teeth, forcing himself to focus. He let go of his overthinking, allowing his movements to flow naturally. Slowly, he began to match her rhythm. The plasma responded, the pulses growing steadier, brighter. There you go, Zara said, a hint of approval in her voice. You're learning. But just as he felt a sliver of triumph, the energy surged. The plasma field flared violently, sending shockwaves through the chamber. Jack stumbled, pain lancing through his body as his bioelectric field struggled to keep pace. Too much, he gasped. Do not falter now. Zara shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Push beyond your limits. Jack clenched his fists, every fiber of his being screaming in protest. He focused on Zara, on the unwavering determination in her eyes. Summoning every ounce of strength, he forced himself back into rhythm, his energy syncing with hers in a final, desperate effort. The plasma field roared, then stabilized. The room filled with a brilliant light as their energies harmonized, creating a wave of power that rippled outward, shaking the chamber. And then, silence. Jack collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. His body felt like it had been put through a shredder, but he was alive. Across from him, Zara stood tall, her expression unreadable. Did I pass? Jack wheezed. Zara approached, extending a hand to help him up. Her grip was firm, but surprisingly gentle. You endured, she said simply. More than I expected from one of your kind. Jack managed a weak grin. I'll take that as a compliment. As the Halian scientists deactivated the chamber, their holographic displays lit up with streams of data. One of them approached Zara, their glowing eyes wide. Captain, the results are remarkable. His energy synchronization was nearly perfect by the end. Zara nodded, her gaze never leaving Jack. Perhaps there is more to your species than meets the eye, Commander. Jack straightened, despite the exhaustion weighing him down. Told you not to underestimate us. Zara allowed herself a faint smile. You may have proven yourself today, little human. But this is only the beginning. Jack's stomach sank. Of course it is, he muttered. As he limped out of the chamber, he couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and dread. He had survived the trial, but what came next was anyone's guess. One thing was certain, the stakes were higher than ever, and the bond between humanity and the Halians had just taken its first, tenuous step forward. The aftermath of the trial left the station buzzing with activity. Data from the bonding experiment was shared between the Halians and the Earth Interstellar Alliance, with scientists on both sides marveling at the results. Jack, however, spent the following day in the infirmary, recovering from the strain. His body ached as though he'd run a marathon, but the sense of accomplishment and survival lingered. When Zara entered his recovery room, her towering frame filled the doorway. She carried a small, glowing device, its purpose unclear but undoubtedly alien. Jack sat up, wincing slightly. "Back to check on your favorite test subject," he said, forcing a smirk. "You are more than a subject now, Commander," Zara replied, her tone softer than usual. She set the device on the table beside him. "This is a Halian regenerative amplifier. It will accelerate your recovery." Jack raised an eyebrow. "A get-well-soon gift?" "I'm touched." Zara tilted her head, studying him. "You joke to hide your discomfort. A curious trait of your species." "It's called humor," Jack said. "You should try it sometime." Zara's lips curved ever so slightly. "Perhaps. For now, I prefer directness." She pulled up a chair one too small for her stature and sat across from him, her violet eyes serious. The trial was a success. The data confirms that humans are compatible with Halian bonding processes. Your species could save ours. Jack nodded, though the weight of her words wasn't lost on him. "That's good news, right?" "It is," she said. "But it also brings complications." Jack frowned. "What kind of complications?" Zara hesitated, something uncharacteristic for her. "The process is not without risks. Prolonged bonding can drain your species' energy reserves. There are also emotional consequences." Jack leaned forward. "Emotional consequences?" "For Halians, bonding is not merely biological. It creates a deep, unbreakable connection between partners. It is a merging of minds, memories, and emotions." Her gaze softened slightly. "For your species, such a connection may be overwhelming." Jack rubbed the back of his neck. "So, if humans agree to this, it's not just a one-time thing. It's permanent?" "Correct." Zara's voice was firm but carried a note of concern. "We will not force this upon your people, Commander. But you must understand the gravity of the choice." The following days were a whirlwind of discussions, negotiations, and deliberations. Jack found himself thrust into the role of mediator, his first-hand experience making him an invaluable bridge between the two species. The Halian delegation proposed a gradual integration plan. Select human volunteers would undergo bonding with Halians under strict supervision, ensuring both sides could adapt to the process. In return, the Halians offered advanced technology energy solutions, medical breakthroughs, and faster-than-light propulsion systems that could revolutionize Earth's future. The debates were heated. Some human leaders saw the offer as an opportunity too good to pass up. Others balked at the idea of risking their citizens in an untested process. Jack stood at the center of it all, advocating for caution but also for hope. "This isn't just about survival," he argued during one of the meetings. "It's about trust. The Halians came to us, not as conquerors, but as partners. If we work together, we're not just saving their species, we're building something bigger than either of us." Amid the political turmoil, Jack and Zara's relationship deepened. She often sought him out between meetings, their conversations shifting from formal exchanges to moments of genuine connection. One evening, they stood in the observation deck, gazing out at a swirling nebula. "Your people are surprising," Zara admitted. Jack chuckled. "I'll take that as a compliment." "It is," she said, her tone sincere. "I underestimated your kind. You are more adaptable than I expected. More resilient." "Coming from you, that means a lot," Jack said, glancing at her. "But what about you? You've been carrying this burden for your people for who knows how long. How do you handle it?" Zara hesitated, her gaze distant. Aliens do not often speak of such things. Vulnerability is seen as weakness. But it's not, Jack said. Vulnerability is strength. Admitting you need help, that's what brought you here, isn't it? Her eyes met his, and for the first time, Jack saw something beyond the commanding exterior, a flicker of doubt, of loneliness. You are an unusual human, Jack Randall, she said softly. Just trying to do my part, he replied. When the final agreements were signed, the atmosphere aboard the station shifted. The first group of human volunteer scientists, soldiers, and explorers prepared for bonding trials. Jack was named liaison, a role that cemented his bond with both his species and the aliens. As the alien ship prepared to depart, Zara approached Jack one last time. You have proven your worth, Commander, she said. And your people's. I am grateful. Jack grinned. That almost sounded like a compliment. It was, she admitted. Though I still find your kind size amusing. Keep laughing, Jack said, his grin widening. But remember, it's not the size of the species, it's the heart. Zara tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. Perhaps you are right. As the alien vessel vanished into the stars, Jack felt a strange sense of hope. Humanity's future wasn't just tied to its own survival anymore, it was intertwined with the fate of another species. And for the first time, the vastness of space felt a little less lonely.